My neighbor insisted I cut down my privacy hedges. When I refused, he poured chemicals on them overnight. When I cried out, he laughed. You built walls. I tore them down. I thought that was it, until I noticed a hole in my bedroom wall that matched the size of a camera lens. I ripped off the paneling and what I found wired into my outlets. I've lived in Modesto, California for over 15 years. My house isn't fancy, but it's solid, and I've worked hard to make it feel like home. I bought it after my divorce, fixed it up little by little. It was my place to breathe, be alone, and heal. My yard was quiet, clean, private. The privacy hedges along the east side of the house? I planted those myself about 10 years ago. Arborvitae. They were thick and tall and gave me some much-needed separation from the world. Then Mitch moved in next door. The guy looked like the kind of guy who thought he was better than everyone. Always outside shirtless, always on a loud call, always acting like the street was his. I tried to be friendly. I brought him a 6-pack when he moved in. He barely said thanks and told me, straight up, I don't like fences. They block the view. Didn't think much of it at the time. I laughed it off. A few weeks later, he started dropping hints. You should really trim those hedges, he said once, walking past the property line like it didn't exist. I told him, calmly, that the hedges were legal, planted well inside my line, and they weren't going anywhere. He smiled, shrugged, and said, Doesn't seem very neighborly to hide. It didn't stop. Every couple of days he'd bring it up again. You hiding bodies back there or what? Can't enjoy the view with those things in the way. I ignored it. I figured he'd get bored and move on. Then one morning, this was a Saturday, I woke up, made coffee, walked to the window, and I felt my heart drop. Every single hedge along the side of my house was dead. Brown. Curled in. Some had already started crumbling. I ran outside. The smell hit me first, chemicals strong and sharp. I crouched down and saw the soil around the base of every hedge was soaked. Bright color. It stank like herbicide. Industrial grade. I looked over. Mitch was on his porch, shirtless again, drinking a beer, watching me. When I made eye contact with him, he smiled. Then he said, loud enough to hear, You built walls. I tore them down. I didn't say anything. I went back inside, shaking. Took photos of everything. I called the police. They came out, took a look, asked if I saw him doing it. I said no, but I knew it was him. I knew it in my gut. They said without footage or a witness, there wasn't much they could do. He got away with it. The hedges were dead. All 10 of them. 10 years of slow growth wiped out overnight. And Mitch laughed about it. For the first time in years, I felt completely exposed. Every time I walked out into my own yard, I felt eyes on me. But that wasn't the worst part. That was just the start. About 2 weeks later, I noticed something strange. I'd been feeling watched. Not just outside, but inside. At first, I blamed it on stress. Then one night, I was walking around my bedroom around 1 a.m., and I saw something on the wall that didn't look right. It was a tiny hole. About the size of a pencil eraser. Right between 2 outlets. It was too perfect. I got down on the floor, turned off the light, shined a flashlight directly at the hole. The light reflected back at me. There was glass inside. A lens. I felt sick. I ran to the garage, grabbed a screwdriver, and tore the paneling off the wall. My hands were shaking. I ripped the drywall open and stared straight into the guts of the wall. There it was. A tiny camera, wired through the outlet. Hidden so deep and small you'd never know it was there unless you were looking for it. The wire ran through the wall, through a hole drilled into the stud, and toward the shared wall with Mitch's house. I backed away like it was poison. I sat on the floor for 5 minutes, trying to breathe. How long had that thing been there? How long had he been watching me? I called the police again. This time, they came fast. One look at the setup, and they called in a tech unit. They confirmed it. It was active, it had been recording, and it was not installed by any professional. They got a warrant for Mitch's house the next day. What they found in there made me sick. In his basement, Mitch had set up what the detectives called a collection site. It looked like a hacker's lair. Multiple hard drives, monitors, routing gear, a full server tower running 24/7. He had video files. Hundreds. Some of them were of me, labeled by date and time. There were clips of me changing, sleeping, sitting on my bed. One file folder was labeled Next Door Cam. But it wasn't just me. There were videos of others. Women, men, families, some with children. Turns out, Mitch had done this before. He'd moved at least 4 times in the last 10 years. Always into quiet neighborhoods. Always next to someone vulnerable. Always staying just long enough to install his setup and collect what he wanted. He changed his name 6 years ago. His real identity was flagged by the feds. He had a sealed record, but now they were unsealing it. There was more. Behind one of the false walls in his crawl space, the cops found sketches, hand-drawn blueprints of my house, and 2 other houses on the block. He had drawn out floor plans, outlet locations, even notes about best camera angles. The cops brought in the FBI. He was charged on the spot, wiretapping, stalking, unlawful surveillance, and later, child exploitation for one of the videos from a previous house. The kind of charge you don't get bail for. The neighborhood exploded. Every local paper picked up the story. His photo was everywhere. The smug smile, the beer in hand, all over the news. But I wasn't done yet. After the news broke, the street turned into a circus. Local reporters knocked on my door daily. People from blocks away drove by slowly, pointing at Mitch's house. I didn't answer the door anymore. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't think straight. I felt violated every time I stepped into my own bedroom. Even though the camera was gone, the hole in the wall stayed there for days. I couldn't bring myself to patch it. It felt like proof. Like a wound. But the worst part? No one else on the block wanted to get involved. One by one, I watched my so-called quiet neighbors back away. The couple 2 doors down, Ken and Marla, crossed the street when they saw me outside. A few people stopped waving. Some pulled their kids indoors when I was on my porch. I couldn't figure it out at first. I was the victim. Why the cold shoulder? Then I found out why. Mitch had been sharing the feeds with people. The FBI told me that much after I pushed for answers. It wasn't just that he was recording people, he was streaming some of it to a private online group. They were still working on identifying the members, but guess what? One of them lived 2 houses down. That's when things started to click. The cold stares. The neighbors keeping quiet. Some of them weren't just ignoring it. They were afraid their own secrets would come out. Afraid their names would end up in the investigation. Or maybe worse, some of them knew. Maybe even watched. I started digging. I pulled every document I could find. Public records. Zoning permits. I wanted to know everything about this guy, Mitch, or whatever his real name was. I even found the number for the last real estate agent who sold him a house in San Luis Obispo. She was hesitant at first, but after I told her what had happened, she gave me the name of his previous neighbor, a woman named Valerie, who had lived alone. I called her. She cried when I told her what happened. Said she always felt uneasy around him. That her dog had gotten sick after drinking from a bowl in the yard. That she once found a dead bird on her windowsill, like it had been placed there. And that her security system had glitched several times before she moved out. I told the FBI everything she told me. Then something else happened. Something that made my skin crawl. Late one night, maybe a week after Mitch's arrest, I was sitting on my couch around 1:30 a.m. No lights on. Couldn't sleep. Just scrolling through old texts. I saw headlights stop outside. A dark SUV. No plates. It idled for a few seconds, then slowly drove off. Didn't stop at any other house. Just sat there, right outside mine. I called the cops again, but they said unless someone stepped out or trespassed, they couldn't do anything. It happened again the next night. And the next. 3 nights in a row, same car, same time. I wasn't paranoid. I knew this wasn't random. I knew someone was watching. Again. So I installed my own cameras. Full coverage. Night vision. And I sent the footage to the FBI agent assigned to my case. He didn't say much, but he told me, "You were part of something bigger than we thought." That didn't help me sleep any better. Then I got the call that made my stomach turn. One of the hard drives they pulled from Mitch's house had been wiped remotely. That meant someone else had access to his system. Possibly one of his viewers. Someone who didn't want to be caught. Someone close. I started wondering, what if it wasn't just him? What if this was a ring? And if it was, how far were they willing to go to keep it quiet? I knew I had to be careful. But I also knew I couldn't let it go. That's when I decided I wasn't just going to let the FBI handle it. I wanted to expose everything. Every person involved. Every piece of it. And I was going to start with my own street. I knocked on every door. One by one. I told people what happened. What I'd found. What the FBI had told me. Some were shocked. Some looked away. One guy even slammed the door in my face. But a few people started talking. One woman, 3 houses down, said she remembered Mitch coming over one day, offering to help her fix her TV antenna. Said he was in her house for 15 minutes. Alone. Another guy said he once found Mitch behind his shed, claiming he was chasing a raccoon. Little by little, a picture started forming. Mitch had been casing this entire block. Everyone. The Hedges? That was just a way to get me to react. To escalate things. I had no idea how far this went. But I was starting to find out. Once I started knocking on doors, something changed. People who'd avoided me before started watching me more closely. Not talking, just watching. One of them, Ted, the guy who lived across the street, stopped me one morning. "You might want to let this go," he said. No smile. Just a stare. I asked him what he meant. "Feds are involved. Let them handle it," he said, and then went right back to watering his lawn. That rubbed me the wrong way. Ted had always been the type to complain about trash cans being left out too long. Now he was calm about a maniac neighbor planting cameras? Didn't add up. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You're stirring up a lot of dust. Careful what you find." No name. No response when I replied. I sent it to the FBI agent, and he told me to keep a low profile. But I couldn't. Not after what they did to me. To other people. Then a twist I didn't expect hit me hard. I was at work when I got a call from the power company. They asked if I had recently requested a meter rewire. I said no. They told me someone had submitted a change request online, using my name, my address, and even listed a second contact number I'd never seen before. I got that number traced. It was a burner. Mitch was in jail, so it wasn't him. Which meant someone else was still trying to get access to my house power grid. I had a technician come out that night. We opened the outside panel and found a tampered breaker box. There was a secondary cable feeding off the main line, subtle, but clearly designed to carry current somewhere else. My stomach dropped. I followed the line along the base of the house. It ran beneath the siding and stopped, right under my back deck. I pried up the boards and found a black waterproof case buried beneath gravel. Inside? A router. A transmitter. And another camera. The router had a SIM card, so it wasn't using my Wi-Fi. It was piggybacking off mobile data. Whoever put it there wanted to keep watching, even after Mitch was arrested. I handed it all over to the FBI. They confirmed it had activated just 4 days after Mitch was booked. That meant someone else had keys to Mitch's setup, or worse, knew where his devices were hidden. That's when I learned something terrifying. The FBI found a second folder on Mitch's drives. It was encrypted and buried under dummy files. Took them a while to crack it. It contained invoices. Private invoices for access bundles, listed by address. My house was one of them. So were others on the street. The prices ranged from a few hundred to a couple thousand. Dates. Payment records. Even cryptocurrency wallet addresses. Mitch wasn't just watching people. He was selling access to them. And now, someone wanted to keep that business going. Around that same time, I noticed a white van parked 2 blocks away. No company markings. But it showed up at the same time every day. Morning. Afternoon. Same spot. Too far to see details, but just close enough that it had a clear view of the street. I reported it. Cops said it wasn't stolen. FBI said they'd look into it. But nobody showed up to tow it or question anyone. I was alone in this. I started carrying a concealed weapon. I wasn't taking any chances. I changed every lock in my house. Got new smoke detectors. New carbon monoxide monitors. Everything that could possibly hide a camera or a mic. I found 2 more bugs. One in my kitchen light fixture. Another in the baseboard heater. They were still in my house. Even after Mitch was gone. That night I checked into a motel across town. I didn't tell anyone. I used cash. I needed to sleep somewhere safe, even for one night. At 3:17 a.m., I got an alert on my phone. Motion detected inside the house. I checked the feed from the new cameras I'd installed. Someone was inside. Dressed in black. Hood up. Moving straight toward the hallway where I'd ripped open the original panel. I watched in real time as they opened the wall. They knew where it was. I called 911. Cops got there in under 6 minutes. But whoever it was, gone. No fingerprints. No sign of forced entry. Nothing stolen. Except the hard copy photos I had printed of the original setup. Gone from the folder in my bedroom drawer. Someone wanted to erase it all. When I talked to the FBI the next day, the agent admitted something that made my knees go weak. They had a list of suspects. People who'd bought access. People who might have been working with Mitch. People in different states. And yes, a few local names were on that list. Including Ted from across the street. He had no prior record. No red flags. But his email address matched one of the viewer profiles they found in the access logs. I asked what would happen next. The agent just said, "It's ongoing." Which meant he was still walking free. Watering his lawn. Pretending none of this happened. I knew right then, if I didn't take control of this, they'd bury it. And I wasn't going to let that happen. Not this time. After the break-in and the missing photos, I knew I couldn't rely on law enforcement alone. I had no trust left, not in the system, not in my neighbors, and honestly, not even in my own judgment. Mitch had fooled all of us, and worse, others had helped him. I wasn't going to wait for justice. I was going to deliver it myself. First, I hired a private investigator. His name was Rob. He was an ex-cop, quit after a corruption scandal made him sick of the badge. I paid him half up front and told him everything, what Mitch did, the break-in, the camera, the invoices, and Ted. Rob didn't blink. He'd seen worse, he said, but never this organized. He started digging. It took 2 weeks, but what he found shocked even me. Ted, my quiet neighbor with the perfect lawn, had a second home registered under a trust. In Sonora, about an hour away. The place had solar panels, blackout blinds, and the walls were lined with signal-blocking insulation. A tech lab. Rob got a drone over it. What we saw? A huge satellite dish in the backyard. Server boxes stacked against the windows. Solar battery packs. He wasn't just watching. He was running part of Mitch's network. This wasn't just voyeurism. This was business. I gave everything to the FBI agent. Photos. Documents. A folder Rob pulled from Ted's trash. Shredded utility bills, all tied to an LLC that matched a Bitcoin wallet on Mitch's invoices. And yet, Ted still walked free. The agent told me again. It's part of a bigger case. We can't move too fast. I was done waiting. So I moved on to Plan B. I created a burner profile online and joined a few shady tech forums, places Rob knew Mitch had been active. I pretended to be a new buyer. Claimed I'd bought a hacked camera feed from someone named TD, and wanted more. It didn't take long before someone messaged back. They called themselves Silent Riser. We chatted for days. I kept pretending to be stupid, kept asking for tips for access. They offered to sell me premium feeds, claimed they had 2 homes in Modesto already. Wired. One of them? Was mine. That's when I made my move. I told Rob to trace the message chain. He did. Silent Riser's IP bounced through 5 countries, but he found the weak link. A single slip when the guy accessed the forum on a phone near a known address. Ted's second house. The one in Sonora. We had him. Rob said, "You want the feds to take it from here?" I said no. I wanted everyone involved to burn. And I wanted to be the one to light the match. I leaked the entire invoice folder. I posted every payment document, every name, every address. I scrubbed private info of innocent victims, but I made sure the people who paid to watch others were exposed. I emailed the documents to every local news station. Then I printed off 50 copies and nailed them to every streetlight on my block. With Ted's face blown up at the top. Neighbor by day. Predator by night. Here's what he watched while you slept. That flyer shook the block. 2 families moved out the next week. A woman from 3 houses down slapped Ted across the face in front of everyone. He stopped showing his face. Then the FBI came back, not quietly this time. Unmarked vans. Gear. Flashing lights. They raided Ted's house at 4 a.m. Found 5 more devices, some hidden in toys, in vent grills, one even in a backyard birdhouse. They arrested him in his robe. And Mitch? The trial came 8 months later. I was there every day. He didn't say a word the whole time. His lawyer tried to claim mental illness. Tried to paint him as a victim of childhood trauma, isolation, delusion. But the jury didn't buy it. Especially not after hearing testimony from the parents of a teenage girl he'd filmed in another city. They gave him 120 years. No chance of parole. The judge called it one of the most invasive and disturbing tech crimes ever committed in this state. I thought that was the end. But karma had more to give. Mitch was transferred to a federal prison in Arizona. 3 months in, he got jumped in the showers. They say someone recognized him from the news coverage. Said he liked to watch people too much. He lived, but barely. Lost 3 teeth. Cracked ribs. They moved him to solitary. For his safety. Ted's case went federal too. But he took a plea deal. Admitted to distributing footage, running a backup server, and accessing illegal recordings. He got 35 years. That smug look he used to have? Gone. He showed up in court with a shaved head and ankle shackles. Couldn't even look me in the eye. As for me? I rebuilt the wall. Not just the hedges. I had a full cedar fence installed. 10 feet tall. Double lock gates. Reinforced doors. No one's watching me now. I got therapy too. Real therapy. Not the self-help crap I used to half-read. I don't sleep well yet, but it's getting better. And I filed a civil suit against both Mitch and Ted. Won it. Not for the money, they didn't have any left, but for the judgment. For the record. For future employers and parole boards to see. Sometimes I walk past the spot where the first hedge used to be. The one Mitch poisoned. And I smile. Because the guy who wanted to tear down my walls? He's now stuck behind his own. Forever.